Welcome to Creativity Talks with me, Hazriq Idrus, founder of the Speaking Factory, keynote speaker for creative leadership and communications. People have this misconception that creativity is only meant for the arts. So in these Creativity Talks, we are going to explore how creativity can be applied in many areas such as business, career, and life, and how creativity can help us to be better versions of ourselves. To do this, there will be invited guests who could be everyday people or experts who will share with us their journey and discuss topics such as personal development, personal branding, book publishing, mindset, creative process, and many, many more. I thank you for joining me in this journey where creativity and personal growth collide. Enjoy the episode. Hi, and welcome back to our next episode of Creativity Talks with me, Hazriq Idrus. And today we're going to look at life challenges. Yeah, because all of us has a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. All right. So today we're going to look at how we're going to overcome it with some creative ideas or creative approaches. And today I've invited a change management facilitator going to share with us his life challenges on how he overcome it, especially when he was working overseas back then. So without much further ado, let me call upon the one and only Go Ashokh Menon. Hey, hi Ashokh, how are you?
I always get tickled when you say one and only. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much, Hazriq. Thank you very much for the introduction.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for.
Nice.
Yeah, we just haven't had our Tose for quite long time lah. So we'll be having our Tose very soon, hopefully. All right. Okay. So once again, thank you for to have you here on the session itself. And we had some early chats before this, and I just kind of very intrigued by your stories, and I think it's very suitable for the listeners to learn and listen from you as well. So maybe you can share with us. You're a change management facilitator. Maybe you can share with us why you do what you do.
Why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do I? It's a very good question, actually. Why do I do what I do? To me, it's been a long journey in that sense. And to me, what is very important in everything that I do, I must be able to impact lives positively. And that is something very, very important for me. So in any part of my career that I've been, so I started in the career back in 1988, where I was in sales. Then I went on to be in corporates in Singapore and Hong Kong. And now I do my own facilitation. But at any point of time, the most important thing for me has always been, can I make an impact? Can I add value to somebody else's life? So that's always been an important part for me. At this current point of time is through the education medium. So that's why I facilitate workshops for that purpose.
Nice. This is what we're going to hear from you as well, especially on our program called Creativity Talks, and how we can want to see and want to hear and learn how did you actually apply, maybe consciously, maybe subconsciously, how you apply creativity along the line. You'll never know. All right. Okay. Maybe Ashokh, just get your insight. Our program is about creativity, right?
Sure.
So maybe from your point of view, what is creativity to you?
All right. For example, I'll tell you a funny story. My wife was asking, why am I getting, what is this session about? So I said, this friend of mine who's an expert in creativity wants to interview me. Then her eyebrows went up like, you are not creative. Because she's literally a creative person. She's very good with her hands. She makes things and all that. So that definition of creativity is something that I've also grown up with for many years. Then I shared your views about creativity, which I think is very important. It's about how do you then use, how do you find solutions to problems? Then she went, okay. So I guess for the longest time, I did have the same views that most people had. Creativity would be, whether it's people with the arts or people who can use your hands, your crafts people and all of that. But having listened to you before, that's when I realized creativity is also about how you solve problems. So thank you very
Mm,
much for that.
nice, nice. Oh, thank you very much as well. All right, okay, let's do this. Let me tap on your history of your behind the scenes back then. Because you share with me you have some challenges along in your early days. Can you share with me what was that? What were those challenges, and how did you overcome it? Are you able to bring us through your journey back then before you started all your current work?
Well, I guess all the challenges in life always add on and you become better and better in that way. So I think one of the biggest challenge I ever had would be back
Mm.
in 2003.
Oh, okay.
Now, to me, that was a very important pivot in my life. That is when in Singapore we went through our SARS. You know,
Mm,
so we went
yes.
through SARS, very much like what we're going through now, COVID. But it was for a shorter period. It was from March to July, if I remember right.
Mm, just for a few
But
months, yeah.
yes, the SARS affected us for a period of time. But by the time the economy picked up, it took much longer,
Mm,
right? And during the time, I
mm,
know I suffered a lot because loss of income was one important thing I lost, right? Then over and above that, I mean, losing your income is one thing, but you still have your loans and your debts to pay. I wish that one was
yeah.
lost. I wish the loans had gone. But so
That's
so
a
how
good
do
way
you,
to think about.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So yeah, so you had a lack of income, but you still had your commitments, financial commitments, because I had two young children at that point of time. How do you now look
Okay.
after them, right? So that to me, that was a very important time in my life. That was the biggest challenge. The rest of the other challenges, I would say, it's maybe when I look at it in retrospect as there's a
Mm,
smaller
mm,
issue, but that was a very
mm-hmm.
important time where I had to probably rein in a lot of my resources and pick up on whatever I learned in the past and experimented with it and managed to get out of it, right? So
Mm,
so there are things that I did. You see, it affects you mentally first, because can you imagine be going through this mental issue? I still remember a time when I had to call a friend of mine, ask him to transfer $2 into my account to take out my last $18, right? But even
oh,
having
you
done,
you need $2 into your account to bring out your $18.
because minimum was
Wow,
20 those
that's
days, you see?
yeah, 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 yeah. So you did
And
that.
uh,
Oh
and
my,
even
okay.
and even if you did that, I can't go to sleep peacefully because I know I'm going to get phone calls the next day from different banks and what have you got. So it was a
Yeah.
very stressful time that I had mentally, right?
Mm,
So yes, I did things like mindfulness, meditation, but it helped, but not really because the problems were so real, right? And I,
yep,
and
yep.
I and I do remember it was that year that I started exercising more rigorously. I used to exercise, but that year is a
Mm-hmm.
year that I pushed it with a bigger plan. I said to myself, okay, why don't I run for a full marathon? So it kept me
Mm,
focused on a bigger goal and pushing myself, and that also gave me the confidence to be able to tackle my problems because this was a goal I've never
mm-hmm.
done before. So taking out a big goal gave me that confidence along the way. So these are the other little
Mm,
things that I had to do. But of course,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I can go more into other details, but I don't know whether I've answered your question to some level.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that means
Yeah.
one way of actually overcoming challenges is actually to go through doing marathon. You did that, right? And that helped in one way or another.
Well, okay, I won't say just marathon, but I think the learning for me was doing
Mm.
something that I've never done before. That means
Mm-hmm.
pushing
Mm-hmm.
my envelope, trying something that I've never done.
Yeah.
So that gives me
Correct.
not only the mental confidence that I can do it,
Mm-hmm.
because when
Mm-hmm.
I'm keep doing it, when I keep doing it, I'm like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. So it's another way of gaining
Uh-huh.
confidence that you can do things. So whenever you see something difficult, right, you look for solutions
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, it can be done. It can be done. And I lean on this
Mm-hmm.
experience of for marathons, for example,
Mm.
to be able to pull me out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Wow. Yeah, because I think that's also one of the creative elements we can look at, right? Because
Okay.
creativity is people say think it out of the box, isn't it? And for
Yes.
you have a problem, do this is something different. This is not the common or rather the situation you in out of the box. So you were in that point of time, and you went out of it by taking part in marathon, and that actually helped. This one of the way to think, wow, that's very interesting. And from there, I heard you actually went over to other country to work.
Yeah.
Am I right to say
So,
that?
yeah. So like I was mentioning, when I had these issues, right, in 2003, I also had to find ways to solve these problems, right? I mean, speaking to the banks and communicating to them is one thing, but they also need their money back, right? So I had to find
Yep.
a way to look at my strengths, my experiences, and package those experiences and offer it to organizations to solve their problems. So I managed to get some work along the way, and then about a year later or so, that's when I was hired by a corporation in Singapore, right, at a senior leadership level. Then after which, then I was in Hong Kong for I think about 7 or 8 years thereafter in a different
Wow,
company.
7 or 8 years.
But
Wow,
it's a journey. Yeah.
wow. Share with us your experience in Hong Kong, and I've been to Hong Kong once. Yeah, mainly because of this Dylan. On top of that, yeah.
Of course.
But and I think it's a different scenario, different situation over there, and of course culture plays a part, right? When you're born with
Yes.
that, maybe you can share with us your experiences, your 7-8 years. Maybe you can share with us your journey. How did you your first how do you overcome the initial challenges, and then along the way, how do you overcome other things?
Well, I guess for me, my attitude was I was very curious. I'm always curious about other people and other countries and other culture.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
always very curious. So I have realized that I cannot come in with my own way of working. I need to understand the landscape and then work around the landscape where I can. You know. So one of the things I do when I was there, I mean, normally what I do, but in Hong Kong, what I did was I mix around a lot with my local colleagues. What I mean by local, I mean local Hong Kong colleagues, right? And I
Okay.
go out with them a lot. So that way I get to understand the nuances and the characteristics, because they have a certain set of behaviors that is based on the structure and the culture over there, right? So you
Yeah.
learn that
Yeah.
way, and I
So do
spent a
you
long
pick, do you
time there.
pick up? Do you speak it? They speak what, Cantonese, Mandarin?
Cantonese mainly.
Okay.
Okay, to be fair, I didn't have to pick up a lot of it. I picked up some little bit,
Oh.
some
Okay.
numbers along the way and all that. But what I
Mm.
found was it was not difficult communicating and moving around in Hong Kong, but I had to find a way. Let me give you an example,
Ah.
right?
Okay, that's
A
nice.
couple of examples. Let's talk about
Okay.
our favorite topic, food.
Yeah.
So I remember one time when I went with my colleague to a restaurant near the office, right? And she ordered something, and I just decided I just mirror that same. Don't make it difficult. Just mirror, right? Just order what she ordered. But I liked it very much. Because it was one of my favorite food, bitter gourd.
Okay.
So and then when we went back to the office, I said, you know what, Tina, I need help. I want to order that food again. How can I do it? And then she was articulating it, but I wasn't getting the pronunciation right. So I said, why don't you write it down in Cantonese, right? And what I did was I took that piece of paper, put it in my wallet. So then when I went back to the restaurant the next time, right, I just took that out and showed the staff. I said, I want this. One order.
Nice. Yeah, because you know what it meant, unless your colleague trick you lah. But if not,
Thankfully, they
that's the
didn't. And
yeah.
I
But
still
that's the
remember,
thing that you already know what it is, right? Yeah.
yeah, and I still remember I went to the same restaurant with my CEO who was from Australia at the time, to the same restaurant many months later,
Okay.
right? And he was looking at the menu and saying, "Wow, to order." So I just took out my wallet, I said, "This is what I want." Then he looked at me and said, "I should have done that long time ago."
No, you have inspired somebody else to do the same.
Yeah, and the same thing I've done with when I go to different restaurants and we order the food. I'll take a picture of either the menu or the receipt. Right? Then I
Yeah.
circle. Then so when I go back again, I just show them this is what I want.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
especially if
this,
especially when we want to have the similar food or the same food the next time around.
Yeah.
So it's correct.
And the other thing is about commuting. That is what I learned. Because you see, in Singapore, when I get into a taxi, more often than not, most taxi drivers also would be able to converse in English in some level. In Hong Kong, it wasn't the case. Not all of them, but some of them, so just to make sure that I made their life easier and make sure that I got to the destination correct when I took the right taxi, right? What I used to do is before I left home, I would go to Google Map, and print out the area I want to go to, then highlight it in yellow or so, right? And put an arrow and all that. So when I get into the cab, I just show them, okay, this is where I want to go.
Okay,
so I found that worked a lot, I worked a lot, and thankfully for Google Maps and all that, you can really look at the whole scene and see which is the nearest MTR nearby and how to get around.
Oh yeah, they call it MTR,
MTR. So those are the things I did. So I mixed around with local spent a lot of time with my local colleagues, just great to understand the culture and all that. And then you understand expectations, and where I could not, I bridged it by having it written down or taking pictures of it, or printing out and showing people accordingly.
Yeah, these are actually very, very simple things we can do, right? When we face this kind of problem, if you know you're going to use it, write it down on notebooks, on papers, put in some wallet. It's just like everyday thing. It's very, very simple, and it's actually one of the what we call it. What creative people do. Creative people, they look around and they know they saw something nice, they just note it down and then they use it when they need to use it in the future. Yeah.
Okay. To be fair, initially I was dumbfounded, like, hey, how am I going to do it? So sometimes it is people who will pop me, like my wife said, why don't you take a picture? Or, why don't you do this? Sometimes it's also suggestions from other people. But you're right, because you have a blocked, or at least I had a blocked vision. Okay, how do I do it? How do I do it? Then someone, when they ask an important question, then you go like, oh yeah, I can do it this way. So sometimes I found that asking the right questions also help open up new ideas.
True. Yeah, because I remember the story about the what do you call it? The photography used to be. Now we have smartphones. Back then they used to have the Polaroid, right? Isn't it?
Polaroid.
Back then, those were the days.
Analog,
the people that Polaroid, because I think the backstory of that Polaroid was that the guy who was taking pictures, and then the daughter actually asked the dad, can I watch the picture instantly? Back then it was the smartphone days, and the dad was like, oh, that's a good question. I'm going to ask about the daughter, and that's how Polaroid came about. That's through asking question, and I really like that. I really like the approach about the way you ask question. And people ask questions sometimes it's not we ask, sometimes people ask us, triggers something, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're right. Asking questions sometimes just triggers new possibilities.
Yep. Yeah. We are still in Hong Kong. We're still in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong there's a lot of some natural disasters. I heard about it. Yeah, can you share with us if you have experienced some
typhoons?
Probably, I guess. Is that the only one? This is the only one over there?
Well, I mean, that's the closest thing that I've come across.
Okay.
So it's normally during this period, July, right? Yeah,
July
to September, October, because of the change in the climate. Because it's more summer and all of that. So you find these issues around Philippines, Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, So it's also because of convection currents and all of that, right? So what happens is typhoon is very common during this period. So there are certain protocols in Hong Kong. I mean, for one, their meteorological, right? Their apps are very, very accurate. It tells you when the winds are coming, when the typhoons are coming, the accuracy of it. So you get prepared, you get prepared. So, and there are different levels. So when it is a certain level, they put level 3. Then when it goes to level 8, it's more dangerous. Level 10 is like, wow, So what's
the range? 1 to 10. That's the range.
It's not really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've experienced 1, 3, and then 8 and a 10. So I think moves to 8 and a 10, I think. So what happens is I remember 2 separate incidences. One was I was in the office, right? So the HR will be continuously looking at, is there a typhoon coming? So when a typhoon is coming, then they will announce to the whole company, right? And they say all those guys who are living on the outskirts in islands and all of that will have to leave first because the ferries are still operating and all of that. So you get to leave the office first. Then the next group, you know. So when the typhoon is coming, that's what the HR will do, and there'll be public announcements that you go back home and all that. That's one experience I've had. And the other experience is when I'm at home and then need to go to the office. You can't go to the office because when the typhoon, when it's smack in the middle of a typhoon, what happens is if the typhoon starts in the morning or late at night and right up the morning and it goes up to about 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. And it goes beyond, that means you don't have to go back to the office. Right. So if it happens before 1 p.m. or sometimes in 12 p.m. in different companies, then after that, then you go back to the office.
So you start work at what, 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock or so, you know. So sometimes your meetings get postponed, you know, your meeting get postponed, you're pushed aside, you pick it up the next day. And
which was a norm.
Yeah, we all got used to it, you know. It's normal. It's normal because it's initially you'll be wondering whether typhoon does it mean that you're going to be locked up for 3-4 days and you're going to stock up your house with food and cans and all of that. So those are
toilet papers.
and when you speak to your colleagues and all, then you find out that hey, it just sometimes lasts a day or so, or maybe lesser than that. So then you don't really have to do the whole stocking up like as if it's the end of the world, But it's important to just keep track of what is happening and communicate with your HR or your colleagues and all of that,
Nice.
So it was quite common. I think there's 1 year that I was there. It happened 3 or 4 times in a year. So sometimes we hope for the typhoon to come on a Friday or Monday, so we got long weekend.
That's hilarious. But did it ever happen? Long weekends due to typhoon?
I think it happened once or twice. Sometimes it happened on Saturday, Sunday. Then we go like. But that is just for the fun of it, It's a conversation.
Yeah, nice. Wow, I think it's very interesting experience over. I think one of the ways to actually to develop creativity is actually to go through experiences, isn't it? And it will just open up all the repertoire of experiences which we can apply this. Then those 7-8 years, those experiences that you have collected in your mind and after that you came back to Singapore. And was that how you then started your company and doing what you're currently doing? Yeah,
I mean, it started towards the tail end of my time in Hong Kong, but thereafter I carried on.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
I see. So basically, what then you actually inspired you to work, or rather now focusing on change management facilitation when you are back in Singapore?
Again, to be fair, that was a journey. Right? What do I mean by that is after being in the corporate space for some time, I decided that I wanted to get out of the corporate space.
Okay.
Right? So when I did get out of the corporate space, I didn't have a clue initially what I wanted to do. So this is an important exercise which I share with a lot of my friends and all that because it worked for me. I hope it works for the rest of them. What I did was I started writing down in a chronological order from my earliest memory, 5 years old at that time, right? From my experiences in life. For initially, I just called it the good things, the bad things, the people around me, what I learned, So I just started writing everything down. So when I started writing it all down, I realized there was a common thread. The common thread was, regardless whether I was in the national service or in the different capacity of work that I was doing, I always loved to share knowledge, read up, research. Right?
Okay.
So I enjoyed doing it. So I realized, hey, you know what? I do enjoy sharing knowledge. So why can't I now focus a little bit more on picking up skills and being able to be a facilitator, a trainer, right? So that was my decision factor. By journaling it, I realized that's a strength I had and an interest I had. So then I started going into it. Then I signed up for different courses to understand the dynamics, and then I started building up competency along the way.
Yep.
So my initial area that I got into was more about leadership communications, and then I got into about engaging high very powerful teams, high performance teams. Or how do you do that? By tapping on intrinsic motivation. And along the way, I realized that I'm also interested in organizations and individual and how they pivot to different type of change. What are the emotional issues and how do they do it? And how should they be communicating along the way? Because as humans, we always keep evolving. We always keep changing. And organizations want to do that, but sometimes they do struggle with it. So it is out of interest that I picked up different areas. So that's my journey within the learning field, if you might call it.
I see. You mentioned the word engagement earlier on, and you were holding the senior position back then. So let's say so our audience could be leadership in the leadership role, right? So
Sure.
if as a leader, what do you think is some of the traits or things that a leader need to do to actually engage the people working with them? Which one do you think? What is a good trait to have as a leader?
Okay. I can only share what has worked for me, what has observed that worked, even with the CEO that I was with and all. Right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
So that's what I use as my blueprint, if you might call it.
Okay.
I think the first and foremost for me personally it was very difficult for me to get into any work, even until today, if I don't see or if I don't have a clarity on the purpose of that work.
Okay.
And that purpose of the work it must add value. It has to add meaning to people. Right. So if anyone gets
clarity is one of the
clarity on the purpose. Clarity of the purpose, actually. Right. Because that's personally what drives me, and that becomes what I articulate to my teams, right? To get them all aligned. Because we all have our tasks to do, we have our KPIs to fulfill. And the thing is, I don't see things as a job. I see things as how we can contribute our talents, our energy to make a difference, right? So to me, it's about aligning everyone to a common purpose, and that's what I focus a lot in everything that I do, right? And the other thing is autonomy, as in we all love a certain level of autonomy. We don't like to be micromanaged. I know I don't like to be micromanaged.
Me too.
Right? No, I don't think a lot of us like it. But so it's about giving that level of independence, right? Because we need to trust people that they have the good intentions and they have the ability, though sometimes they might not see it. So what I used to do in my team, right, and in my organization is because I've got a lot of things to handle on my plate, a lot of issues, strategies or whatever to implement and think about and all that. So when my staff come to me, I always will tell them, they'll tell me, hey boss, isn't got a problem, So I realize I cannot be taking on the problem and just thinking about what to do, So over time, what I shifted it and said, okay, when you come to me with a problem, I want you to come with me with 3 solutions. So
you empowered them for them to come up with 3 solutions based on their problem.
Based on a problem, whether it's their problem or they see that could affect the team, the organization, whichever. Right? They come to me, they tell me this is a problem. I say, give me 3 solutions. Now, over time, I realized where initially they were uncomfortable because they're so used to this taking orders. I said, no, I want you to you come up with the solutions and we will have a conversation around it. So then I found that this became a very useful learning moment because why? I could listen to them and maybe add in more information that they were not purview to. Sometimes they didn't have enough information. So I can add on more information. Number 2 was I could provide clarity where they got certain assumptions wrong. So I was able to then add more information for them. And C is they will sometimes come up with very good suggestions, and I go like, you know what, that's a brilliant idea. you know. So it gave it by pushing them to think about solutions. It not only helped me, but it helped them, but they got excited and they took ownership of their ideas. And then it's about how I support them, right? So it was about the aligning everyone to common purpose, giving the people the trust, the autonomy, to let them know it's okay to do this, even if it's a mistake. We learn from it, because what people are more concerned about is, if it's a mistake, you will use them as a scapegoat. But if you turn it
True.
around
That's what
to,
people are afraid, right? Yeah.
but if you turn it around to become learning moments and say we learn from it, okay, let's not make a mistake. Let's improve from here. Then there's more synergy. And I think what I learned from my boss was about treating people as people. See,
Because all of us are human after all.
we are, and that's why, because sometimes what happens is, sadly, in a lot of organizations, I notice they treat people as pure head count numbers and not the heart count.
Wow.
If we
Tell me
really
about it,
understand
man.
that people are people, and we can see that people have the good intention, the ability, but sometimes they're stuck. They might not know their ability. It happens to me also. Sometimes I don't know my abilities until I practice it, or someone pushes me, right? Yeah. So if you treat people as people and see people as heart count, and they're humans, it creates a different relationship, because that relationship matters. It doesn't become transactional relationship. It becomes a relationship where their development matters to me.
Yes, true. And there's also a lot of stories why people leave companies, and usually they leave not because they don't like the work, because they don't like the bosses.
Yeah,
That's what I've heard a lot about it. And because of
yeah.
the lack of the relationship built between the teams and the leaders, I must say.
That's right. I mean, that's something I've also noticed. So yes, aligning people to a common purpose is important for me. Giving people the trust, the autonomy to take ownership of ideas and implement it. And I think supporting them is extremely important. And that's why the communication is important in an organization. It is, we need to communicate. That's why I always say it's about over communication. It's okay. You know, because people need to understand what is happening and where we're flowing, because the organizations has also been more like a startups, you know, so things are very nimble, very fast. We move things, you know. Yeah. So that's not only my style, but like I said, I learned from my boss, and I always share the story. Though all of us in the same organization, we are not together in the same organization anymore, right? We all have gone different ways in the last 10, 14 over years, whatever it is. But every year, this group of colleagues, they will meet up at least once, if not twice a year.
Oh, really?
And you know when? The CEO's birthday.
Serious?
Or Christmas towards the end of the year. Of course, last year and this year, so far nothing, because of the whole COVID situation.
Because of the situation, right?
But that tells you about the leadership, about how he was leading a company. But because he cared about people. But was he hard? Of course. We are still
he needed to get the job done.
As leaders, we have to make the decisions. We have to drive the company. We have to make the decision. If something is wrong, we got to call it out as it is. If someone doesn't behave correctly, we have to call it out as it is. And that's what I learned from him. You know, so he will always protect the staff. But if he has to use the stick, he would. But it is for the purpose of developing us. And to me, that's why I say it's the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Because after all these years, we still got a chat group, right? And we used to meet up once a year. So I've learned a lot from the right bosses I've been with.
Wow, it's one of the lucky ones. We hope that those leaders out there can also apply this technique. If I could summarize it into what I call it, the CES. C is on the clarity. Talk about clarity, right? Leaders need to have to give clarity to the team, clarity and vision, and then we have the autonomy. Give the autonomy, not to breathing down the necks. And lastly, is the support. I mean, I just summarized it when you mentioned all this. So I think these three CES, that's what I can think of at the moment.
I just also want to highlight that what I noticed he did apart from all of that is he made sure we are aligned to a common, exciting goal.
Ah.
So it wasn't just about you do your task. You know, it's about how, as an organization, we're going to make a positive impact. So I think that was an alignment. That was important in alignment because in many organizations that I go to and I facilitate and all that, when I see silo thinking, or people are protective and wanting to defend their own turf for whatever reasons,
Yeah,
this
correct.
is the main reason. They don't see the alignment to a common purpose. So I would say that would be
Common
the
purpose.
first plus
Wow.
whatever you ever added on. Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be C square ES, common alignment. Then we have your clarity, then we have autonomy, and then we have your support. Wonderful.
Trust you to come up with creative ways of conceptualizing the whole thing. That's why you're the
Because
creative man.
yeah. This is one of the what do you call it? The creativity is all about connecting, right? So you really put it nicely in order. I just happy you put it all things together, put it into perspective.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you for this. All right. So let's bring
no
this
worries.
into maybe our last part or towards the end of our program right now. Engaging
ending soon.
engaging the staff, and now let's engage the participants. Now that you are now a management facilitator, how actually do you engage the audience or in terms of participants when that attend your workshops? How do you do that? Do you have some interesting ways, creative ways? Especially now we are going into a lot of virtual workshops and stuff.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that up because I think that is extremely important. So, for the longest time, I've been doing more face-to-face workshops. And face-to-face workshops, we have different tools that we can use, right? For example, as simple as your whiteboard, for example. Your whiteboard, breaking up people into groups, having discussions and sharing of ideas. And there are different fun elements and games that we can bring in, right?
Yep.
So that is something that I've always been comfortable with, and towards end of last year, early this year, we also created little card games, for people to play.
Wow, okay.
To help in the engagement of the learning, because learning cannot just be downloading, because the learner is responsible for the learning. And especially when you work with
the learner is responsible for the learning. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about it from adults learners' point of view, the reason they need a motivation to learn.
Yep.
And the reason why they'll want to learn is because they will benefit. And the way to help them understand that they will benefit is to create the awareness in them, or create gaps in their thinking where they go like, I don't know this, I want to know this, and I know because I know this, I will learn more, right? So you've got to find different ways of telling stories during your session, how you ask questions, how you group the people together, or even, like I said, bringing in tools, right? Different type of tools to play, right? So that's what I've been doing on a face-to-face for the longest time, But of course, last year, April, what happened in Singapore was we went into our circuit breaker, which then forced us to start looking at things differently. To me, I know it was a Friday, I can't remember the date now, 4th of April or something like that, when it was announced that we were going to go into circuit breaker.
Yeah, it was a Friday.
It was a Friday, I know, because I was doing a face-to-face workshop. And then on Saturday, I started calling up my network, because I knew that there was a small group of within my network who were already experimenting and exploring virtual training.
Okay.
So it is important to have a good network and understand different people's strength and all that. So I did reach out to them, and they started pointing me to people I can learn from. And the thing is, during that period, there were a lot of people who had a big heart, very generous people who were just sharing. So I still remember I attended a session from a gentleman in Hong Kong, right? And I attended another session with a gentleman from Malaysia who had been doing this session for about 5 over years. He's been doing virtual. He's got face-to-face and he's been doing virtual. And he decided to put a whole learning experience together to help facilitators or trainers, right, adapt and move into this new world. So since in April I wasn't doing anything, I told myself I have to learn something new. You cannot be stuck, because I have to learn. And let me tell you, Hazriq, I'm always very scared of tech. Anything to do with tech, computers, and all of that, I will run away. But
Okay.
this incident inspired me. Why? Because now I was put into a hole, right, where I knew I had to learn. Because if I don't learn, I will be left out, right? So sometimes
Yep.
that the fear of loss can also be propelling you to go and learn, you know, instead
True.
of just
True.
sitting there. And for me, it worked that way. But I had a safe environment to learn from. So when I signed up for the classes and all that, I learned from this group of people, and there was support for a period of time where I could practice in a safe environment and learn and make mistakes and all of that. So that is also important in building the confidence, right? So at this current point of time, as much as I do face to face, I've also pushed myself, pushed my envelope to deliver programs online. And I've realized again from my experience of learning from others, it really boils down to the design of the learning program, because you cannot take the lesson plan from your face to face and just copy and paste into a
Turn it.
digital. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it
work.
doesn't work that
It
way.
does not
It
work
doesn't
that
that
way.
way.
It
Yeah.
does not work that way at all. Right?
Yes.
So because now you got to put yourself in the learner's point of view and say they are looking into a screen, they have got a lot of distraction, whether it be at home, their television, their mobile phones, they got a lot of distraction. So the question is now, how can you be the biggest distractor? How do you engage them by being the biggest distractor? So you cannot be talking so much. You have to be breaking up the session, right? To get them to engage, to talk, to get involved in different exercises and all of that, you know. And this is something that I use. I can show you to you very quickly, right?
Okay.
Let me see, where is that? Can I share screen now, or do you have it already?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, okay, can. Okay. Let me see the one.
All right. Yeah, just give you an idea. I mean, so this is one way where what I
Ah.
do is I call out certain names, like say for example, I call you Hazriq, right?
Okay.
Okay, all right.
I'm
I'm
here.
gonna
I'm
do the
here.
card, and I want you.
I'm present attending your course.
And this is about choices. What choice would you like to make? Right? Tell me about this. So, what superpower would you like
Wow.
to have?
What superpower would you like to have? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So do I have to answer this?
No, it just gives you an idea, right? So what happens is
Oh, okay.
people engage, they start talking about it, the rest are listening, they're anticipating what is going to come up next, and you can do things like you can shuffle the cards, you can make it really fun, and then pull off the next one, what do you enjoy doing, so it becomes different ways of having different exercises, right? So just to give an
Nice.
idea, just to give you an idea, right? So and the good thing is there are a lot of these tools on the internet. Some are free, some you got to pay for it. But what happens is when you start looking at it from a learner's point of view and said, okay, how do I solve the problem that they have, that they don't enjoy sitting in front of the computer, right? So how do you now be the biggest distractor and engage them? By talking less, giving them more hands-on, by giving them different tools to play with, and discussion. Because remember, we said the learner is responsible for the learning. So we provide them
Yep.
the tools, the questions, and the frameworks to be able to do that. So I find that virtual learning is really fun. It
Wow. Wow.
pushes me.
Wonderful.
It
Wonderful.
pushes me. It really pushes me to think about from their point of view. You see, which what I find now is, hey, you know what? I can take this experience and bring it back to my face-to-face, and I'm going to be more powerful.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so this is
Wow.
so these are the thing is there will always be fear, Hazriq. Okay, so one
Yeah.
thing I
Yeah.
had to learn for myself was push myself out of my fear. And one way to do it is you learn, you gather information, because with information you can let your fear drops. So that's how I did. I called my network, gathered the information, I attended sessions to learn, then I got a support group, I practice in safe environment, then I keep pushing. So even when I create new things like this today, before I bring it out to the market, I actually call out my support group and play with them first. Get their feedback, because these guys will give you like brutal feedback. You see? Yeah. So, and that's a way where when I push and find new solutions, I also try and build confidence. So I guess that goes back to what you have always shared about creativity, right? It's about finding solutions to problems.
Yeah. Which actually you actually put a lot of examples into the creativity framework, the creativity process. Because creativity is about divergent and convergent thinking. So divergent is where you generate ideas. That's where you are doing it. Before you generate ideas, you need to gather a lot of ideas, which you already mentioned just now. From there, you can then generate suitable ideas. And ideas are just ideas. The next stage is to test it out. That's where convergent thinking is, where you get people to test it out and then apply this at the relevant situation, relevant programs, which you actually had a wonderful, simple but suitable process to get your works out. Nice, wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Ashok.
Hazriq, you're right. Earlier on in the beginning of the session, you said I may have used things unconsciously, but thank you for putting clarity on what I was doing, because I had no idea. So it's convergence and divergent thinking. Yeah. All right, that's nice. That's nice.
Wonderful. Wow, nice. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So before we end, maybe just one question for you, lah. Having through all these life experiences, from Singapore to Hong Kong, back in Singapore, as a leader, as a facilitator, now we are living in a situation where it's very fluid. Things change here and there. Yet, if according to the World Economic Forum, it says that creativity is still the number one skill, or among the number one skill we need to be able to adapt and be agile. So based on your point of view, personally, how you think we can actually develop our creativity? Maybe 2 or 3 things. I'm not sure. Just based on your experiences.
So your question is based on the current situation. Creativity is an important skill for us to have. So
based on the World Economic Forum survey, and so basically,
to have, and how can we now
develop that creativity? Yeah, or develop the skills. How can you develop the skills? Because you mentioned earlier on, to meet other people. To me, that is one way of creativity, develop creativity. Then you actually journal down. I think that is another way of creativity. Sure. What else? What else do you think? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. I can only share what happened to me last year, and hopefully you do what you do. Your magic of putting in a framework again. Okay. So what happened was last year we went to circuit breaker, right? April in Singapore. So the first thing, apart from me wanting to go and learn about how to do it online, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my God, apologies for my dogs.
I think they must be interested to listen to you.
Or maybe to you, right? The creative man. So yeah, the first thing that hit my mind was, oh God, there could be many people who may go through what I went through last year, back in 2003. Remember 2003, the SARS experience I had?
Yeah, correct.
The first thing that came to me was, oh God, there could be a group of people, I don't know what percentages and all of that, who may go through the same suffering that I did, mentally, financially, and all of that. Okay? And honestly, that is what spurred me on further to want to see how I can help this group of people. Right? So to me, it started by wanting to solve their problem. How can I help them? How can I make it as easy as possible for them? And that is what drove me to really come up with these cards that I was telling you about and all of that, because I realized that I needed to come up with a game. Of course, not me alone. I had a whole team, guys who had experience and all of that. But my driving factor was, how can I help people organize their finances and protect and strengthen it so that they can go through this period with a peace of mind, which is important. Because a lot of us are going to go through, or I felt last year that we'll be going through a lot of fears, uncertainties, and which will affect the mental state of being. Right? So now, how do I now reduce that level of stress so that they can focus on what is important, which is their performance at work and their relationships with their friends and their family and all. Right? Because I'm going to try and reduce this as much as possible. Right? So that is what spurred me. So I guess to answer your question, it was looking at a problem that I wanted to solve, because maybe I didn't want other people to go through, or even if they are going through the same situation as I did, how can I try and shorten it as much as possible? You know? So I guess it was looking at that, what they could be going through, and what can I do to help them. Right? So I guess that was the first thing that spurred me on. And because of that, then I realized I now have to pick up some skills, which is whether it's virtual learning or changing the design of how I help people become aware, because I knew I have to work with not only providing the knowledge, but also reduce their fear, right? So I had to pick up new skills. So I guess the first thing was, what is the problem I wanted to solve? What are the skills I needed to pick up to help solve this problem? And the truth is, I cannot do it alone. I have to do it with other people. Because if COVID has shown us anything, is we need to work in a community, in a tribe, as a group, to help people, help each other.
Nice.
You know? So, and I think by mixing around with the right crowd, picking up the skills to solve the problem that you want to, I believe creative solutions will come along, because people will be asking the right questions to push you. You'll be asking the right questions to learn. Right?
Wow, wonderful. It's a very wonderful putting things together.
Yeah, so I guess that is what has worked for me, right? So for people who want to pick up creativity, I guess the first thing is, I would say, because creativity can be quite abstract, right? Maybe it could be the first question where we ask ourselves is, what is the one problem that you like to solve? Maybe for another or for yourself. What do you want? That could be the starting point, And then based on the starting point, then you can start journaling. What are your skills? What are your strengths? What are your interests? And then see how you can use that or improve on it.
Wow,
but so
nice.
If someone is to ask me, I say, let's start with the starting point of the problem that you would like to solve. But the problem must be important for you. It must be emotionally important for you. It must spur you. It must excite you.
Yeah, wow, wonderful. In a nutshell, you actually, if not sure whether you realize it, actually you are actually putting the design thinking process in a very nutshell, because you start out with empathy. Actually, when you understand about other people's problem, because you were in that situation before, and you don't want other people to feel it like what you felt back then. So that itself is empathy, which is the rule number one, or rather step number one in design thinking process, and you have it there, and then you have all the rest of the thing put together, and I think that really suits you, because you are talking about heart count, and empathy is all about the matters of the heart. And once you have that as the starting point, then the rest will be just following through, which I thought, wow, really, Ashok, thanks a lot for sharing this. It is just without us knowing, we have been speaking like almost 1 hour, but I thought it's a very but to me it was very wonderful, very compact information. Your 8 years plus all put it together in 1 year, and I hope this will benefit with other people as well. All right, so before we go, Ashok, how do you get people to contact you?
There's LinkedIn.
Okay, you also have put it down there. So if the audience out there, if you want to get contact Ashok, there's a LinkedIn now here. You go to Go Ashokh Menon. Then just send him a message and he will reply back to you. All right. All right. Once again, Ashok, really thanks a lot for your time, and I really learned a lot from here, especially on the leadership part, because it's one of the new things I'm working on of this upcoming called the creative leadership, which I think this is definitely very, very useful sharing, which not just me and the audience as well to benefit with you. All right. So for the audience out there, once again, we hope that this session has been very, very beneficial. And if you want to know more about this kind of program, do subscribe to Creativity Talks with me, Hazriq Idrus. And till then, Hazriq Idrus and Ashok say to you, have a nice day and hope to see you in the next session. All right. Thank you, Ashok.
Thank you,
And
Hazriq,
see you,
and-
the audience. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right.
If you find this video useful, do like, comment and share so that more people can benefit from this. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, click on the subscribe button below so that you can receive updates of our upcoming videos. Till then, Hazriq Idrus signing off. See you in the next video.